Drones are becoming part of everyday life, from recreation and photography to public safety and package deliveries. Congress has mandated the integration of drones in our national airspace system. The FAA's role is to ensure that integration is safe and efficient. The Federal Aviation Administration has been at the forefront in encouraging innovation and working with industry, state, local, and tribal governments to realize the benefits of drones and inform future rules and regulations. The FAA has completed a draft Programmatic Environmental Assessment on package delivery by drone that will evaluate the potential impacts of drone delivery operations. The study is now available for comments from the public. What is a Programmatic Environmental Review? A Programmatic Environmental Review assists decision makers and the public in understanding the potential environmental impacts that would result from a proposed large-scale federal action or activity. When a proposed action is adequately analyzed, the programmatic document can serve as the NEPA review for that action. Programmatic documents may also be useful in providing the basis for subsequent project-level specific environmental reviews. When a programmatic NEPA document is prepared, the FAA is not approving specific operations. It is looking at the type of action or operation from a high level as details, such as the exact location of a flight path or placement of a distribution center, are often unknown until a much later date. However, analyzing the action's potential for environmental effects under a programmatic review can allow future reviews to be more focused, which streamlines and expedites approvals. After reviewing an operator's application for certification, the FAA may still require project or operational specific NEPA documents for individual actions where more detailed analysis are warranted. The FAA plays an important role with package delivery by drone operations by ensuring operator certification under FAA Part 135, safety and environmental reviews, and compliance with NEPA, a policy that requires federal agencies to assess the environmental impact of their proposed actions. Under NEPA, environment includes the physical and biological environment and human relationships to the environment. Drone operators that want to conduct small package delivery must use the FAA's existing Part 135 certification process and obtain an exemption or waiver to provide drone package deliveries beyond visual line of sight. The FAA issues air carrier certificates to U.S. applicants based on the type of services they plan to provide and where they want to conduct their operations. Operators must obtain airspace authorizations, an air carrier, or an air operator certificate before they can begin operations. The only regulatory pathway for drone operators to carry property of another for compensation or hire beyond the visual line of sight of the drone pilot is through Part 135. What is Part 135? Part 135 refers to the Federal Aviation Regulation set of rules that govern commuter and on-demand air taxi and charter operations. It outlines the operational safety requirements for these types of commercial flights. All Part 135 applicants must complete the 5 phases of certification: pre-application, formal application, design assessment, performance assessment, and administrative functions in order to qualify to operate in the airspace. From 2017 through 2020, the Unmanned Aircraft Systems, or UAS, Integration Pilot Program focused on testing and evaluating the integration of civil and public drone operations into the national airspace system. This work continues under the UAS Beyond program, which focuses on the remaining challenges of UAS integration, including beyond visual line of sight operations, societal and economic benefits of UAS operations, and community engagement. Participants in these programs are among the first to prove their concepts, including package delivery by drone through Part 135 air carrier certification. In general, package delivery operators partner with established businesses and identify the location for a hub at the business's parking lot, rooftop, or other area where it is not disruptive to the business and does not present a safety hazard. They typically involve minimal infrastructure requirements and no ground disturbance. Flight operations can generally be categorized into 5 phases: launch and climb, en route outbound, delivery, en route inbound, descend and land. The type of drone set to operate in your area will vary depending on location and operator. The PEA includes an analysis of package deliveries by drones operating under 400 feet above ground level. The number of operations at each location will vary. Prior to takeoff, packages are loaded onto the drone. The drone then climbs and performs aerial deliveries. After delivery, the drone returns to its hub. In addition to the environmental review, the FAA conducted a safety review. In evaluating the safety of drone proposals, the FAA is responsible for ensuring that operations are designed to minimize risks to other aircraft and people and property on the ground. The safety evaluation includes risk of vehicle failure that could result in fire or other catastrophic accidents on the ground. The risks of the proposed use of the system are evaluated to ensure that a level of safety equivalent to the current state of safety in the National Airspace System is met.
The FAA has completed more than 20 environmental assessments, or EAs, for individual drone package delivery proposals and one programmatic EA for drone package delivery. Each EA resulted in a finding of no significant impact. States represented in previous environmental reviews for Part 135 drone package delivery include Arizona, Arkansas, California, Florida, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, Oregon, Texas, Utah, and Virginia. Here are the findings from our National Programmatic Environmental Assessment on package delivery by drone activity. Environmental Impacts Summary. FAA regulations require the evaluation of impacts to environmental resource categories. Thresholds for significant impacts to each resource category are defined in FAA Order 1050.1G. Noise and noise-compatible land use impacts. The noise analysis considered data for all drones currently operating under Part 135 in the United States, as well as others the FAA has obtained noise data for in anticipation of future operation under Part 135. Noise impacts would be greatest at the hubs where the drones take off and land. For package delivery hubs, the noise impact assessment determined the maximum potential extent at which the proposed action could result in new day-night average sound level, or DNL, of 65 decibels, or dB. This is the noise level at which the FAA considers noise impacts are significant. A noise-sensitive area is an area where noise interferes with normal activities associated with its use. Normally, noise-sensitive areas include residential, educational, health, and religious structures and sites, as well as parks, recreation areas, areas with wilderness characteristics, wildlife and waterfowl refuges, and cultural and historical sites. In general, the maximum noise levels generated by UA package delivery operations occur at the delivery hubs closest to locations having the greatest concentration of flight activity. Based on the noise analysis conducted for these operators, the DNL 65 dB for those delivery hubs would extend up to approximately 300 feet from the landing and takeoff pads. The FAA would require operators to locate their hubs at sufficient setback distances from noise-sensitive land use to prevent increases of 1.5 decibels or more from occurring within this DNL 65 dB or resulting in a new DNL 65 dB. Increases of 1.5 dB or more with an existing DNL 65 dB or resulting in new DNL 65 dB cannot result from the addition of new noise levels less than DNL 59.7 dB. Based on all currently available UA package delivery noise data, hubs conducting up to 1,150 autonomous aerial deliveries on an average annual day would be sited a minimum of 600 feet from any noise-sensitive land use, ensuring that such land use would be beyond the maximum potential extent of DNL 59.7 dB from the hub. Similarly, en route operations over any noise-sensitive land use would not exceed 1,150 annual average daily deliveries, i.e., 2,300 overflights, ensuring that noise exposure from en route overflights would be less than DNL 59.7 dB. Upon reviewing an operator's application, the FAA would determine whether the operator's noise impacts fall within the scope of the Programmatic EA or if additional environmental review is needed. Visual effects. In terms of potential visual effects, the highest concentrations of overflights would occur in proximity to hubs, which are primarily in commercial areas with high levels of ambient lighting. When making a delivery, the UA would depart from a hub and travel en route at an altitude less than 400 feet above ground level, and therefore could be visible by someone looking for a drone in the sky. The duration of delivery from the time the customer approves the delivery to the transition back to en route flight mode is expected to range from 30 to 90 seconds, which limits the potential for visual effects to occur. While the density of deliveries in any given area is currently unknown, most package deliveries would be to residences. More than 1 or 2 package deliveries to the same location each day would be atypical. Therefore, the potential for visual effects to occur at any given delivery location is limited. Operations are not expected to contrast with visual resources and character of the study area. Operations would not obstruct or block views of visual resources. Historical, architectural, archaeological, and cultural resources. The FAA is working with state historic preservation officers in multiple states to develop programmatic agreements to streamline the Section 106 consultation process. Generally speaking, the following types of resources are expected to be most sensitive to drone operations: battlefields, memorials, cemeteries, landmarks, museums, places of worship, and sites with an associated cultural, natural, or scenic landscape, in particular those with minimum modern disturbances in their present viewsheds and generally associated with the 19th century or earlier. To avoid adverse effects to historic properties, best management practices would be required. For example, operators would not be allowed to locate a hub within half a mile of a sensitive historic property. If a hub is attached to a building, it will be sited on a building that is less than 45 years old. If the building is more than 45 years old, it must have been determined to be ineligible for the National Register of Historic Places within the last 10 years. Upon reviewing an operator's application, the FAA would determine whether the operator's proposed action falls within the scope of the Section 106 consultation or if additional consultation is needed. Department of Transportation Act, Section 4F. Section 4F of the Department of Transportation Act protects significant publicly owned parks, recreation areas, wildlife and waterfowl refuges, and public and private historic sites. Public parks, recreation areas, historic properties, wildlife refuges, and waterfowl refuges exist throughout the U.S. Because the operating areas are not currently known, identification of Section 4F resources that may exist within an operating area is not possible at this time. Applicants will be required to disclose a list of Section 4F resources within their proposed operating areas as part of their applications to the FAA. Increases in sound levels in these types of properties would be minimal and only last seconds as the drone flies over the property on its way to and from a hub. Hubs would not be located within the boundaries of a Section 4F property. Hubs would be located at sufficient standoff distances to prevent significant noise impacts. The National Park Service and others do not allow drones to take off from or land on property they manage. The proposed action is not expected to result in a use of Section 4F property or resource, meaning the proposed action would not physically impact a Section 4F property and would not result in impacts that substantially impair a 4F resource. Water resources, wild and scenic rivers. Regarding wild and scenic rivers, drone operations would not physically impact or affect the free-flowing nature of a wild and scenic river or a river on the nationwide river inventory. The FAA recommends that drone operators cross rivers, streams, or other linear water bodies in a perpendicular fashion. Flight paths should not run parallel to or along a stream, river, or other water body. Biological resources and wildlife. Regarding wildlife, the FAA has initiated consultation with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in accordance with Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act. Increases in sound levels experienced by wildlife would be low and of short duration. Mitigation measures will be implemented by operators in accordance with the Programmatic EA to avoid impacts to threatened and endangered species. Mitigation measures include coordination with the Fish and Wildlife Service, education, and best management practices related to migratory birds, bat and bird species, manatee species, and others.
How does the PEA differ from a regular EA? A PEA is a broad review that covers a large scope of federal actions or actions over a large geographic area. An EA, environmental assessment, is a more focused document that examines the specific environmental effects of a particular action in specified locations.
What are the next steps? We will be accepting and evaluating comments received on the draft Programmatic EA. The final Programmatic EA will include public comments and FAA responses. Based on the evaluation of public comments, if the FAA determines the proposed action is not likely to result in significant impacts, the agency will publish a final Programmatic EA and issue a finding of no significant impact. If the FAA determines the proposed action is likely to result in significant impacts, the agency will issue a notice of intent to prepare an environmental impact statement.
This concludes the overview of the draft PEA the FAA conducted on package delivery by drone. The study is now available for comments from the public. You could submit your comments to the draft PEA via email or mail. The most helpful comments reference a specific recommendation, explain the reason for any recommended change, and include supporting information. When submitting a comment, consider your privacy. If you include your address, phone number, email address, or other personal identifying information, your entire comment may become public at any time. You can request that your personal details be withheld from public view, but we cannot guarantee this. You can email us at 9-FAA-drone-environmental@faa.gov or send us regular mail at Federal Aviation Administration, Suite 802W, care of AVS Environmental, 800 Independence Avenue Southwest, Washington, D.C. 20591. And you can learn also more at our website. Comments submitted to the YouTube video are not formal comments to the study and will not be included in the final reporting. Details, including a link to the draft PEA, submission information, and additional resources can be found in the video description or by using the QR code. We look forward to hearing from you.